we're creating a ton more data and data points. There's not enough that's being done at a data quality part. That's a huge challenge.
If there's no strategy, if everyone's trying to keep up with their competitors, they're not going to harness their data properly.
You have to respect the data subjects. Also ask why. Why am I doing this?
All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Web3 Careers. I'm Nnamdi, an ecosystem builder, and today I'm joined by my very good friend Nnamdi. Nnamdi began his career in BI as a business intelligence developer for Atos, and then transitioned into consulting at a Big Four firm where his expertise flourished. Venturing in-house, he shaped data strategies as a data enablement manager before branching out as a data freelancer specializing in AI and GDPR compliance. Now, he's pioneering ResiHub, a platform revolutionizing real estate interaction by addressing critical challenges such as poor communication, hidden fees, inadequate accountability, faced by stakeholders like leaseholders, tenants, management agents, and freeholders. Nnamdi, good to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
It's a great day to be interviewing you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
My first question to you, Nnamdi, because obviously we started our data careers together back in Atos, and I want to hear from you about the evolution of data over the last 10 years. What are the major trends and advancements that you've seen personally?
Yes. So I think for me, I like to break things down into different sort of areas. But so when we started our career back in the day, you had a ton of different BI tools, you had a ton of different data, but you also had a ton of chatter, I like to call it. And back then our chatter was big data. Everyone spoke about big data. What is big data? News articles, press releases, even in our company, we spoke about it a lot. But I wanted to break things down just to talk about the evolution. So when I was at the Big Four consultancy, they created a quite cool, I have to say, thing. It was actually, we were both in the same. I followed you after in the same team, actually. So it's whereby you create data, you consume the data, you curate the data to make it whatever format structure you need, and then you commercialize it. So I'm going to talk about the evolution across here. So back in the day, I guess, creating the data about 10 years ago was quite simple. There weren't that many different tools that could create and data, but now with the mobile phones created, it's grown exponentially. The amount of data points, whether valuable or not valuable, has grown remarkably. Now, from a consumption perspective, how that's changed from what I've seen is when I first started, we had ETL tools like, I believe like IBM Data Stage and these things that were writing big processes, even at some point I was an ETL developer, just solely to focus on that consumption part. And now we've got people who are able to write Python scripts, to build data pipelines off the cuff. So now there's no more heavy reliance on big tools for consumption and curation of the data. And then the last bit is the commercialization part. This part we'll probably have a good debate about, because for me back then we had ClickSense or ClickView, we had ClickTech with ClickView, we had things like Power BI, we even had just standard spreadsheets, SAP business objects, where you're creating reports to provide insights. It's not changed. People still need to get their data and make sense of it. And now, fast forward 10 years, I have to say, we have more beautiful looking tools. They're aesthetically pleasing. But for me, a majority of them are still doing very similar things to what they were doing about 10 years ago in the reporting side. Now, what has been added on top of that is people obviously want access to predictive analysis and things like that. Now, back then, you'd need an in-house specialist to do this. But now some of these tools are actually providing you the resources to do it. But I have to say, I challenge some of the big tools to say, oh yeah, we can provide you predictive analysis and all of this, because ultimately it takes quite a lot of work and resources to actually make sense of the data and to understand what techniques to use. So for me, the biggest changes in the last 10 years is, for starters, the biggest trend is we're creating a ton more data and data points. For me, my guess is the mobile phone. And then secondly, we're also now challenging ourselves in companies a lot more to use data. Everyone
Yeah,
wants to know about data, how we can improve their job, their operations. And now we're getting a lot more hypothesis driven sort of data analysis in teams. So it's not just a ETL developer come in, build your pipeline,
yeah,
build a dashboard, see you later and gone. No, there's a
exactly.
lot more. Oh, I believe X, Y, and Z. I need you to go prove or disprove it. And to do that, you're armed with whatever resources you have now. So that's what I think is the big changes over the last 10 years.
Yeah. So would you say now data is being tackled a lot more with a narrative behind it rather than just churning out results from a huge mess of data?
Yeah. I think definitely both of them. But something that we'll definitely talk about, I'm sure, is we have to challenge ourselves to say, the narrative part. Some people don't quite know what the narrative is. Some people don't quite just have the basics sorted out, the reports sorted out. And you can't really, some people don't have the resources for starters.
Yeah,
Some people don't have the basic dashboards or reports to provide them insights,
exactly.
whether real time or not. Some people don't have adequate pipelines that they're carrying out the any sort of cleansing, any sort of techniques that needs to be done. And then some people also don't have that high quality data. So across the board, the expectations have gone high, right? But for me, it takes the resources, the operational frameworks and procedures are slow to catch up with these
Yeah,
expectations. That's
yeah.
what I find.
Yeah, thanks. And that takes us nicely to our next question, actually. For years, data has been touted as being more valuable than even oil. But we still see that a lot of companies are struggling to harness the power of data properly. What do you think are the main challenges or barriers that are getting in the way of really making use of data to its fullest extent?
That's a really good question. So, look, in the end, I think from what I've seen in my career, everyone's like a data maximalist. They're not
Yeah.
data minimalists, they're data maximalists. I'm actually reading a book now, Digital Minimalism.
Okay.
Carl Newport. It's good. It's got me thinking, actually, how can this be applied to data as well?
Yeah.
There's so much noise out there. And like, I'll give a couple of reasons. So one of them is, they don't have the right data expertise. So you say data is the new oil. Loads of countries produce oil, but they don't have the refineries. We know that firsthand. They don't have the refineries to be able to
Yeah.
to be able to create petrol, diesel, whatever they want that's
Yeah.
useful. So they've got
Yeah.
all this oil, but they're lacking the actual expertise to turn
Exactly.
this and convert this into something that's actually useful, a resource is useful. And that's one big challenge. Another challenge I'd say is probably the quality. So the quality of the data that's being collected, people don't really, your insights only as good as whatever data you collecting. And I think
Exactly.
people just collect anything and everything, and then chuck it over and make sense of it. And I think there's actually something like that. Do you remember the data? So we had a data lake, and then some people called
Yeah.
it a data swamp.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
another thing. That was a big buzzword then.
Yeah.
But, but I think there's not enough that's being done at a data quality part. That's a huge challenge. And then I genuinely think that some people, as I said before, just need to sometimes data leaders and also people in the business just take a step back and detach and look, hey, what is going on here in our business? What do we actually truly need? And how does this data support our overall company strategy and vision for the company? And I don't think a lot of people do that really. So those are some of the common issues I'd say. And overarching that is just, it's essentially what is our data strategy,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
and who is executing on this data strategy, and how does everyone place into the data strategy, and how does everyone know what role they're meant to play and what role data is meant to play, and how our company utilizes this great resource effectively to
Yeah.
achieve their goal. Everyone's always looking over their shoulder. What's this company doing? What's this doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now is the AI. Well, now with AI, I'm sure we'll get to that. Everyone's
Yeah.
now like, throw everything else out. Let's
Hmm.
focus on this, and that to me is a challenge. It's sometimes distractions and lack of actual focus.
You put it perfectly. If there's no strategy, if everyone's trying to keep up with their competitors, they're not going to harness their data properly. It's basically garbage in,
Yeah.
garbage out. And
Yeah.
something that's also a hot point right now that everyone's talking about is the ethical side of data analytics. For too long we've seen these big tech companies harvest the data of their users, in so much as the users are actually becoming the products now rather than the stakeholders. What are the ethical
Mm.
considerations that you have to keep in mind when you're handling sensitive data?
Great question. I guess for me, I would just say it's about what is the culture in this company? Are they very much focused on us taking care of it? Privacy, I'm not, I don't know if I can use the word abuse the data, but not, let's say use the data for three reasons, but
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is effectively abusing it.
Hmm.
Or are they so commercially driven that, they don't care? And I guess I could probably give an example. When I worked at the NHS, we had to extract a ton of data, and this organization, for all people fault it, they've got so many people in different roles who are act as gatekeepers for reasons. And I recognized that when I was there, because we had to extract those from all GP practices for this project we're on, for this
Yeah.
team, and obviously provide some insights on that. But to extract that, we had to go through a lot of essentially go through loads of gates. And these you know, clinicians, speak to a clinician, speak to a data privacy expert and stuff like this. So that is an organization where privacy is embedded.
That's
Maybe
right.
some might say too much, but it gets you thinking about, why
Exactly.
exactly is this there? And we realize, well, from any little as when you go to the GP practice, put your consent.
Yeah.
Some people just go in and just, I don't care, I don't mind. I'm telling you, if you care about your data being used, start reading the small print a bit
Yeah.
more, because
People need to think a
if
lot
you didn't
about
tick
this.
that, yeah. If you didn't tick that, we'd extract it. I'm telling you, it's extracted. So yeah, that's one end of it.
Mm.
But the big one we probably all know about is the social media and how they're using people's data and things like that.
Yes.
I generally think, for me, you have to respect the data subjects. You can't treat them like a child as well and just say, this is good for you, this is good for you, this is good for you. And I think companies like Facebook are probably finding that the hard way.
Yeah.
Loads of people are down and out. Like, if Facebook didn't acquire, this is a bold statement, but in my opinion, if Facebook didn't acquire likes of Instagram or WhatsApp, just Facebook as a tool itself would
Yeah.
nowhere have been as successful. So
No, no. Yeah,
honestly, your
exactly.
reputation is a big thing you need to consider. You need to consider your relationship with
Yeah.
the data subjects. And you need to consider, you need to consider your relationship. You need to do some research as to how they would perceive the data being used. And honestly, the last thing I'd say is have the right people in the organization to challenge you.
Yeah.
These people are not there to make your life hard. They're a mountain for you to climb, the likes of like data protection officers and things. They're a mountain you climb, but you climb as a team, and they're there for a reason, to actually protect the company.
That's
And
right.
and just on a final note, what I found in another client I worked at is when you incentivize one team to get something through quickly or to use data, and then you have another team that's not really even incentivized, the data protection team, to stand there and they're dealing with this barrage of people saying, these guys are blocking us from making money. These guys are blocking us from making money. You have to look at your incentive schemes and how you're incentivizing people, if it's a right or the wrong way. Because obviously,
Right.
if you incentivize them to just get things through, everyone's going to look at these guys as, the blockers in the
That's right.
company. Think about like compliance from just like a compliance team.
Yeah.
Every time people speak about compliance, they're like, these guys. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Now, I've got a confession to make. The novelty of working from home has slowly started to wear off. When I want some flexibility in my workspace arrangements, I head to WeWork. Join the vibrant community at WeWork and enjoy 1 month free on new memberships. This is perfect for professionals in the AI and Web3 space. Their flexible workspaces offer the ideal environment for collaboration and growth. Don't miss out. Claim your free month at WeWork today by clicking on the link below my YouTube videos or simply heading to ademalajo.com and navigating to the resource section. Like you said, it's important to have the right checks and balances in place, not only to protect the company, but also to protect the users. And
Yeah.
you work a lot with GDPR. Do you think the regulation is being followed like it should be by companies? And if not, what needs to be done to make sure that they adhere to these rules more?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, when I did the GDPR project, I didn't complete it by the time I left, by the way. So I hope it's completed now, because I moved on from that. But like, it was hard. It was hard to be GDPR compliant when you've got so many legacy systems and things like that.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to be able to say you're GDPR compliant across all applications, databases, interfaces, and things like that. So I genuinely think that you don't know if you're compliant until you don't know how fully compliant you are until something bad happens.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think until a data breach happens of some sort, until someone puts in a data subject access request and said, send me all my data you have of me.
Yeah.
You're
Everything you have
thinking to
on me.
yourself, how on earth am I going to consolidate all these different applications? I don't even
Yeah.
know what I have on this person. So realistically, I think compliance is a thing that maybe newer tech companies can off the cuff can be compliant, whereas older companies will take some time. And back to like getting the resources in, you have to invest in these things if they're important. The repercussions of being found out non-compliant is big. I think
Yeah.
it's a percentage of your revenue. So you've got to reinvest in these things, and you've got to make sure people don't look at these people as like the bad people in your company,
That's right.
because that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for that. And we'll move on to something a bit lighter right now. AI and machine learning are making more and more of a big headline in the news. And obviously data has a lot to do with this because it's feeding into the models and the learning that these machines are doing. What are the opportunities that data presents to the new AI business model?
Let's put my glasses on for the AI one, the lightest one. I, to be honest with you, the thing about the AI, when people say AI, is I'm always a bit suspicious as to what that really means, right? Generative AI, of course, is accessible. Everyone's got ChatGPT. You look at screens and students in work, even at work. One of my companies, we had to actually write our objectives through AI, which fair enough. It's great, but like
Yeah.
I see it shaping things up differently. From my main bit that I really am a fan of is automation. It can automate things, and we say this like it's a new thing, but back in the day, I don't like saying that. There's RPA, robotics process automation.
Yeah.
Companies like Blue Prism, I don't know where they are now, and things like that. There's these things were being done. They were being done through heavy lifting. People had to write a
Yeah.
ton of scripts and things like that. But I think AI can really, really reduce a lot of the workload, the
Absolutely.
repetitive work that people do from from driving new innovations as well. I think it can show you by obviously by reducing this time to stuff, you can see processes differently.
Yes.
If it takes A, B, C, and you bring that all together, you create space for more. So I think people need to be open to that. Definitely. The predictive analysis and predictive insights and advanced analytics, I think that's great because essentially it's running these models. If you don't have that big an experience or knowledge of it, you can write this sort of like models and it can provide you some insights. But I think people just got to be careful because if you don't really know what the model is doing, the
Yeah.
model you're using to write this, and you don't know what the level of quality of data is that's being used for this model, you sometimes don't just take the answer like, this is perfect, and this probably would lead to me to think actually from an accountability perspective. I mean, who gets in trouble when the model does something like bad or
Yeah.
does something that's not meant to do? It's like even like in like the case of like AI and auto, like cars and things like that, people were like, who is it going to be? Is it going to be the car maker?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the driver who's sitting there
Mm.
who told it to drive freely so I can have a nap and eat my food, whatever? Or is it going to be the person who created the actual, the AI in the car? So I think there's loads to think about, and it's good things to think about, but we
Hmm.
can't just say this is the solution for all.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, this is really good. Some really great content here. I know that so many people who are thinking of getting into the data AI industry are going to have so much to chew on right now. Also, anyone who's in the industry will have a lot to learn from you. Um, on the subject of education, I find that when it comes to data literacy, it seems to be the preserve of, the data scientists and the BI managers who have been in the space for a long time. What do you think needs to be done so that when we say data is self-serve, it actually is, and people can have the literacy they need to manipulate the data properly?
Yeah, that's good because actually that's perfect because that's one of my when I was a data enablement manager, that was the main reason. That was what the team was meant to do. It was extremely
Yeah.
it was a very humbling experience. And if I could go back, the first thing I would do would be to properly assess where we're at a data level in the
Yeah.
company, do a full assessment, from our literacy, from satisfaction, to how people are using it day to day. Is it feeding into reports, dashboards? Do it across the entire company. It would have taken ages, but when you do that, you understand what the line in the sand is. Then, in parallel, you can start getting some data leaders, non-technical and technical, so business leaders, data leaders, to start saying where do we want to be, and that almost should be something that feeds into the data strategy. But just to go back to your point of data literacy, the reason why this is so important is because in that company, everyone wanted a bit of data. Everyone, right? Everyone wanted to be able to build their own dashboards, to provide their own insights, because it feels good though. Like
Yeah.
you build a product, you
Yeah.
put it online, it
Yeah.
feels great. But I can't tell you how many thousands of
Mm.
dashboards were in this company. Most people had a license of some sort. Some never used it. And then the problem there is then expectations. It's like people need to clarify what the expectation of one's role is. I get it. Everyone wants to be able to be some level, achieve some level of literacy with data, but it's like actually, let's figure out how data actually improves or adds value to your role. So
Yeah.
you're doing what you should be doing, right? And then when you do all of that, you then realize actually, okay, let's build some tools and products. We have to call them products because they're going to be continuously being built. Let's build some self-serve tools. And in this company, we actually a great guy. My team built this beautifully aesthetically pleasing dashboard that was self-serve. You can slice and dice it however you want to get whatever information you wanted. And for us to do that, we had to first of all find out all the list of most used dashboards, go into each of these dashboards, find out what's going on, interview a couple of people, and then find out, okay, this is what people do. People do this, so this is how they interact with data. But without that knowledge, you can't really build the self-serve tools and things like that. But just to add on to that, I'm not trying to ring fence data analytics and
Yeah.
tools, but I think if you give people tools without teaching them how to use it, imagine going to a house and giving people like hammers and be like, you don't even give them any more information. You come back, there'll be holes in every wall because they have no
Yeah.
idea what they're doing. You understand? So I think
Exactly.
I think you've got to ring fence it a little bit because you don't see typically in most organizations you hear about people wanting to go build their own dashboards and things like that. Most organizations, which is fair enough. You need to sell some and get the insights and data, but you don't really hear about data people going off and running marketing campaigns all the
Exactly.
time. So I think we've got to be able to. The data team has got to be tasked to be able to build the right products for them that work, that enables them to not only achieve their goals but really really add value, and also
That's
be
right.
open. Call it a product. It's evolving. You're continuously improving this product, and then the other company has got to be able to throw their weight and support behind the data teams to build them the right tools, and that requires sort of culture. So yeah, data literacy, I think I get it, but I get it, but like if you get someone coming out the blue being like, in a different team, you're like, I want to build a model for this, you'd be like, okay, maybe not, because
Yeah,
that's not really your your job to do that. Trust the people whose jobs are to do that, and
that's
then
right.
challenge them to build things that enable you to do your job.
100%. 100%. And so we've touched on data in the past, we've touched on where the industry is now, today. But looking forward, what are the major trends and advancements that you think we're going to see in the future of data?
Okay, so I think we're going to see a lot more data points being created. I mean, we kind of are. I mean, I'm wearing a smartwatch. I can't even predict what devices are going to be, but I feel like we'll be having a lot more data points
Yeah.
that are going to be created. But I also think we're going to see a big bit of a shift from people who are almost so fed up with the utilization use of like data analytics and everything. There's some people are going to start regressing back to say, I actually don't want so much data. I don't want
Yeah.
Alexa to tell me it's 9 a.m. in the morning. I don't
Yeah.
want that anymore. I'm done with this. I think we're going to have some people who are so fed up with these little innovations, because actually in the book I'm reading, it's like you look at a small innovation. Okay, Alexa tells you what time is it, 9 a.m. You look at how much effort and time it takes to get that and what else could be done, and think, if you start thinking about the cost to one little bit of value, then you might not start investing in that as well. And that could be something companies will start doing, because companies will say, actually, let's look at the cost to get this one value, and it's just a business decision. It doesn't mean there's no right or wrong, but
Yeah.
you have to start weighing things up, and you have to start looking at things that moves the needle massively. And this is in one's, like, in your personal life, in your professional life, and things like that. I mean, I could give you an example for myself. I put in Excel or Google Sheets my gym routine and all the weights I'm doing, and then like plot a graph, and I looked at the graph and I say to myself, okay, cool, cool. You could have done this in a notepad, but like, genuinely speaking, what exactly has this done? You know, like, I get it and I get what I was trying to do, but I was like, actually,
Yeah.
you know what? That needle is so small that the
Yeah.
effort of going to Google Sheets is distracting me. I'm putting, trying to drop down and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just done with that. I'm gonna write down what I'm gonna do
Yeah.
and just do it
And
and
take it
put my
off.
phone to the side, because I don't. The costs are distraction, time to do that, having to get an internet connection. These are all the costs for what?
Yeah.
For just nominal value. So I think people are now realizing, actually,
Yeah.
data and technologies, let's start actually challenging the value.
True. Yeah.
That's
Very
what I
true.
feel.
Exactly. Exactly. And something I learned back in Atos was scope creep. And I think that's a real thing when it comes to data in our lives. It's pervasive and it's invading every single nook and cranny. Like you said, you mapped out your workout routine in Excel when actually all you needed was a notepad. I wanna
Yeah.
I wanna end with this. You've already given us so many words of wisdom, but I want you to give us one more thing which you think anyone who's not in the data space already but is looking to get into it should be aware of. What would that be?
You know what? I'm a bit biased here, but one thing I'll say is, if you're ever going to get into the data world, think quality. Just start off with data quality for starters, and always think about the importance of quality through everything, through from when you're creating the data, when you're consuming it, curating it, and when you're trying to commercialize or do whatever, or act, as they say. You always have to think about the level of quality all the way through, because if you get it wrong here, it certainly is not going to be right there most of the time, really. So I think I say to people is, like, think about how you can answer the questions of how good, how what's the quality of my data, and then I'm cheating now. Say something else. Also ask why. Why am I doing this? If
Yeah.
you start asking why, you're like, why am I processing it like this? Why am I collecting it? Why am I doing, why am I building dashboards on this? And I think that also, enables you to actually look at things, and to do that, honestly, just take a step back sometimes and look at it end to end, and like the gym thing. I had to take a step back and look at it and be like, actually, this is pointless really for me. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nnamdi. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where can people
Sure.
reach you if they want to learn more about your career and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can search for me, Nnamdi Obigwe on LinkedIn. I'm sure we can put a link of some sort.
Absolutely.
And for me, like back to like di digital minimalism, I'm trying to keep it as minimalist as possible. So
That's
I'm
right.
not on Twitter or anything like that because I just don't want. I'm unable to just go through that noise. So
Yeah,
LinkedIn is a really really good spot to
yeah.
find me, please.
Sounds good. Nnamdi,
Cool.
thank you
Thank you very
so
much
much
for
for
having
your
me.
time.
This is great. It's great.
Yeah, appreciate you
Absolutely.
being on the
Pleasure.
show.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.